Okay, so we're going to keep moving on. We're going to read 230 in the book. We're on page 230 in the book. And we are going to get up to page 244 because there isn't a break in a very logical place. So we're going to read 14 pages today. And we're on page 140 on the PDF. My allergies are acting up, so I'm a little bit coffee, so just ignore me. What was I going to say? Okay, yesterday we read very cold in Florida right now, cold snap. And some weird things happened. Like, not, this part isn't weird. Paul went to school and noticed not a lot of kids there. And then Henry D said, well, they're probably working in the orchards, the tangerine orchards. And then they got the idea, Paul and Henry agreed, let's go help because we're all war eagles. So they went and they were lighting the fires to keep the heat up, time and temperature, and they were hauling diesel, and they were hacking off ice off trees and working all night long. And then in the morning, Paul's mom picked him up, and this is what was weird. Paul looks awful because he was up all night working really, really hard. And then Eric has, I think, his last football game. And he found out that grandparents were coming over and such, but not to like visit, just like to say hi. And then they're going on to Epcot and Disney World. And anyway, back to that last football game. The mom said, you should stay home and sleep. And Paul agreed. And then she said, your dad's not going to like this. So I think that's just a little bit weird. But anyway, here we go. Friday, November 24th. I slept for 18 hours yesterday. I've done that before too. I slept for 18 hours yesterday. No one woke me up to go to the game. That was good. No one woke me up for Thanksgiving dinner either. That was weird. It was 4:30 on my alarm clock when I finally opened my eyes. I lay there in the dark for another hour, then got dressed and went down to the kitchen. I was starving. As I was finishing a turkey sandwich, I heard the sound of the newspaper plopping onto the driveway. I walked outside. The air was cold, but nowhere near freezing. The wind was blowing from west to east, blowing the smoke of the muck fire through the starry sky. I walked back inside with the Times and sat on the floor of the great room. The headline of the sports section was Lake Windsor defeats Tangerine. Underneath that it said Antoine Thomas throws for 3 TDs, runs for 2 in 30-0 rout. I started to read about it, but then Dad wandered through in his pajamas on the way to the kitchen. He stopped and scowled at me. He said, I thought you had a cold. I don't hear any coughing or sneezing. I answered, sorry, Dad, but I'm feeling better today. We locked eyes for a few seconds. Then he continued into the kitchen. When he came back out, he had a cup of coffee and he had lost the scowl. He sat down on the floor next to me and began to talk about his favorite subject. You didn't miss much of a game. You know that big center, Brian Baylor? Is he the one who hangs out with Antoine? Right. He's been snapping the ball to Antoine perfectly all year. Yesterday, I guess he forgot how. The kicking game stunk to high heaven, and it was all because of him. I think Coach Warner should have benched him. Dad pointed to the sports section. Do they even mention Eric in there? No, they just say that the score should have been higher, but Lake Windsor missed all 5 extra points. Dad's eyes shot fire. Missed extra points? Is that what it says? Eric didn't miss anything. He never even kicked the ball. The ball never even got anywhere near him. Brian Baylor made 5 bad snaps in a row. I couldn't resist, I said. Well, at least we won. That's the important thing. Dad wouldn't even hear me. He was shaking his head back and forth. It would have been nice to finish the season on a high note with a big game, but this Baylor kid ruined it. He took a sip of coffee. I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't used to snapping the ball to Arthur. Arthur? You mean the coach actually put Arthur Bauer in the game? Oh yeah, he put all the seniors in. It was their last game, and it was a blowout. Of course he was going to play them all. He pointed at the paper. Is Antoine the big story? Yeah, he's pretty much the whole story. Dad brooded about that. He finally said, It's like Brian Baylor did it deliberately. Like he wanted to make Eric and Arthur look like fools. All 5 snaps were wild. They were high or wide or they bounced before they got there. He made Arthur jump for them or dive for them or chase them down. The last one went so high that Eric had to run it down himself and fall on it. If those Tangerine linemen had been faster, Eric could have gotten hurt. I thought, just wait till Monday, Dad. Eric is going to get hurt. Arthur Bauer too, because remember the whole Antoine Thomas, and they didn't like what happened with Louise, and Louise gave Paul a little heads up. We heard Mom in the kitchen rattling some pans, so Dad and I got up and joined her. I turned to page 2 and saw a large composite photo with this caption above it: All County Middle School Soccer Team. I studied the names and faces. I knew all of them. 4 were from teams I played against, and the other 7 from teams that I played on. The faces of the players, actually their school photos, were arranged in 3 rows, the way that a team would pose. Under each photo were the player's name, school, and position. One face, however, was missing. Across the top row, the strikers included Maya Pandy, Gino DeLuca, and Tommy Akoso. The middle row of halfbacks included Victor Guzman and Tino Cruz. Across the bottom row, one of the fullbacks was Dolly Elias, and the goaltender was Chandra Thomas. It was Chandra's face that was missing. There was an empty frame where her photo should have been. I stared at them for a long, long time. Did I want my own face to be up there? Yes, I did. Did I want to change what had happened to me this season? No, not a minute of it, not ever. Chandra had earned her place on this team. I wondered if she felt proud to see her name, if not her photo, in the Times. I walked out to the kitchen, found the scissors, and started to cut it out. Mom and Dad looked up. Dad said, "What's that?" "The All County Middle School Soccer Team." "Yeah, are you on it?" That question really hit me the wrong way. I couldn't believe he'd asked me that, and yet it was so typical. I answered, "Sure I am, Dad. They picked me as all-county bench warmer." He looked annoyed. He sounded annoyed too. "Come on, Paul. Did you make the team or not?" We locked eyes again. "How many games did I play in, Dad?" He pulled back. "I don't know." "What position did I play when I did get into a game?" "How am I supposed to know that?" "Okay, here's one. How many field goals did Eric kick this year?" He stared at me, then blinked rapidly. "All right, your point is taken." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I understand what you're saying. You're saying that I know everything about Eric's season and nothing about yours. You're right, and I'm sorry." Mom looked up at him with interest. "All I can say is in my own defense is that this was the critical season for Eric. College recruiters are watching him. A lot is riding on this season. His entire future in football is riding on it." Mom asked quietly, "What if Eric has no future in football?" Dad stared at her blankly, so she repeated, "What if Eric has no future as the place kicker for some big-time college football team?" Dad let out a short, uncomfortable laugh. "What are you talking about?" He looked at Mom, then me, as if we had lost our minds, or worse, as if we'd forgotten that Eric Fisher football dream. He said, as if to 2 morons, "Eric can kick a 50-yard field goal." Mom continued, "I know he can. What if that's not enough?" Dad answered calmly, "Well, that's not enough. You have to have good grades. You have to show good character." Mom looked down at her coffee. Was she thinking what I was thinking? Did she know that Eric had no good character? Or was she still as clueless as Dad? Did she still believe blindly in the dream? No one else spoke, so I went back to cutting up the newspaper. In the column next to the photo, there was a notice, bordered in black, that caught my eye. The annual Senior Awards Night at Lake Windsor High School will be held on Friday evening at 7:30 p.m. in the school's gymnasium. This year's ceremony will include the dedication of a laurel oak tree in memory of Michael J. Costello, the Lake Windsor football captain who was killed by lightning on September 5th. I said, "Do you two know about this Senior Awards Night next Friday?" Dad was still trying unsuccessfully to make eye contact with Mom. He answered, "Sure, we'll all be going. They're honoring Mike Costello and all the other senior players, of course. Bill Donnelly is going to be the master of ceremonies." I folded the sports section back up and handed it to Dad. The phone rang and Mom picked it up. She looked concerned. She said, "No, we just got up. We haven't been outside at all." Then she said, "Oh my God." She got off the phone quickly and pointed at me. Paul, your dress. Check all around the house, all around the outside. What's wrong? That was Sarah from next door. She said somebody had smashed up all the mailboxes and spray painted all over the wall. I went out through the front door. Mom hurried to watch me through the side window in the great room. I saw our neighbor's mailbox first. It was smashed all right, like an aluminum can, and it was hanging by a thread from its pole. Then I looked over to where ours should have been. All I saw was the pole bent at an acute angle. There was no trace of the mailbox. I looked up and down the street. About every other mailbox had been smashed, probably by a baseball bat. Do you remember the beginning of the story? Then I went into the backyard. There was no paint on the inside of the wall, so I climbed on top of it and vaulted over. I hit the ground, turned around, and saw it. Swirling lines of white paint like fake snow against the gray of the wall. I was too close to make out what it said, so I started to back across the frozen mud ruts of the perimeter road. The wind was whipping up. The smoke was in my eyes, my nose. I had to back all the way across before I could read the message. It said, "Seagulls suck." That is so original. I'm just telling you, woo! I'm not sure what happened next. I stood there staring at the sight, breathing in the stench of the muck fire, and I started to get the feeling. I started remembering something, someplace. Where was it? The wind raised up brown clouds of dirt from the perimeter road and mixed them with black clouds of the muck fire. The sun started to darken like the moon was passing in front of it, and I started falling backward as straight and as stiff as a tree. That's how Dad found me, stiff and unconscious. He had to pick me up and carry me across the road. He started yelling over the wall to Mom to bring the Range Rover around. I remember telling him, I'm okay. And I was pretty much back to normal by the time they got me onto the couch in the great room. Mom said, I'm going to call the doctor. I said, no, really, I'm all right. Dad was totally stressed out. He started yelling at me like it was my fault. What happened to you? What did you do? Did you walk into a car? I said, no, nothing like that. Mom put her hand on my forehead. I said, I don't know. I can't remember. I really can't remember. Mom looked into the backs of my eyes. She said, this is all my fault. You had a cold to begin with, and then I sent you out in the disgusting air. She started into the kitchen. I'm going to make you some tea. Dad stared at me for a few more seconds, then he joined Mom in the kitchen and talked to her about the mailboxes and the spray paint. He said, I bet kids from Tangerine High did it after yesterday's game. They were mad about getting blown out like that. He's probably right. Mom brought me a cup of hot tea with lemon. All day long, she and Dad kept looking at me and asking me how I felt. I kept saying, okay. That was true, and yet it wasn't. The whole truth is, I feel very weird, but I can't say why. I can't remember why. Not yet. Monday, November 27th. Today was supposed to be the day. Mom insisted that I stay home, although I told her I felt fine. I thought all day about Eric and Arthur. 10 a.m., I thought to myself, Eric and Arthur have no idea at this moment that they're going to face Luis again this afternoon, and that this time he won't be alone. At noon, I thought the same thing, and I thought again at 2. I wondered if Eric would walk through the kitchen door with his eyes swollen and black, or with his nose broken. I wondered what kinds of questions Mom would ask him, and would he answer them? I figured that Eric and Arthur would take the time to make up a mutual lie, like they'd gotten jumped by 10 guys from Tangerine High School, maybe the same guys that had vandalized our neighborhood. That would sound a lot better than the truth, that their own teammates despise them so much that they helped a stranger beat them up. Anyway, Eric did walk through the kitchen door, but something obviously had gone wrong. He went straight to the refrigerator and grabbed a can of soda. I looked right at his face. There wasn't a mark on him. It hadn't happened. Something had gone wrong. I was disappointed, but still confident. Something had gone wrong, that was all. I sat down at the kitchen table and tried to think. Could it still happen to Eric and Arthur? When? How? Then it came to me. Yes, it could still happen. It could happen on Friday, outside of Senior Awards night. If Luis asks me about another time and place, that's what I'll tell him. Mom walked in with the phone. I hadn't even heard it ring. She said, not too long, please. I have calls to make before the homeowners meeting tonight. I pressed the button. Hello? Hi, Paul. It's Carrie. I held the phone out at arm's length. Then I shook my head like a wet dog, trying to clear my thoughts. I finally said, Hi. Yeah, hi. I figured you were never going to call me, so I decided to call you. Uh-huh. Look, I'm sorry. I've been meaning to call you. I held my hands out in gesture that she would never see. I just didn't. Well, that's okay. Do you still want to talk to me now? Sure. I guess the last time I saw you was at the soccer game. You guys have a really great team. Thanks. I think it's great that you have girls and boys. Yeah, it was great. Did you see the paper yesterday? I sure did. 3 girls from our team made all county. I saw that, yeah. Did you see that thing about planting a tree for Mike Costello? Uh-huh. Are you going to go? It's Friday night. Oh yeah, I'm going. Yeah, oh yeah, I'm going. Because I'm going too. Oh yeah? Yeah. There was a pause, and she said, Joey's having some kids over to his house afterward. Would you like to come with me as my date? I didn't hesitate at all. I said, sure. Great. I added, thanks for asking me. Sure thing. Does Joey know that you're asking me? Oh, yeah, he knows. He said we can ride over there with him and Kara. I had a sudden, crazy picture in my head. Could Joey be listening to this? Could he be on the extension? Mom came in and pointed at the clock. I said, I'm sorry I have to go. I'll see you at the gym on Friday. Okay, great. Bye. Bye. Mom said, who is that? Carrie Gardner from Lake Windsor Middle. We're going over to Joey's house on Friday night after the ceremony. Mom took in this information. She waited, I guess, for more, but I didn't say anything else, so she started making her calls to the homeowners. Didn't sound like too many were interested in her meeting. Mr. Costello arrived first at about 8 o'clock. I answered the door and let him in. He gave me a friendly greeting as usual. I claimed my seat in the alcove at Dad's IBM. I pulled up the Eric Scholarship Offers file as Mom and Mr. Costello settled into the living room. Dad has been working on the file again. He added the names and phone numbers of scouts and alumni boosters from the 3 Florida schools, people like Mr. Donnelly and Larry and Frank. He has also noted that a press packet from the Times has been sent to those schools. He hasn't added anything more to the other page 1 schools, and get this, the page 2 schools are gone, deleted, trash canned. The Houston schools and any other non-contenders for the national title are gone. They have no place in the Eric Fisher football dream. I clicked out of the file and started listening to the meeting. Mom was taking notes as Mr. Costello rattled off a series of items. A Rolex watch, a diamond stick pin, 24-karat gold bracelet. I logged off and walked into the great room. Mom didn't suggest that I leave, so I joined them. I asked, what are you writing down, Mom? Mom looked at me with a pained expression. Was I being a pain? These are items that were stolen from the tented houses. Dad came in and sat in one of the folding chairs. He didn't say anything to us. He didn't even look at us. It was like we weren't there. He just stared straight ahead at the fireplace like he was waiting for it to flame on. The doorbell rang, so I went to answer it. I let in a group of 4 owners. Mom suggested that they begin the meeting right away since no other people were expected. It was smaller and friendlier than most homeowners at meetings. The 8 of us listened as Mr. Costello read the financial reports. Then he turned to the old business. We have good news on a couple of fronts. All I can say is thank God for that freeze. It killed off all the mosquitoes, so we were able to cancel that guy with the gas masks and the sprayer. Mom said thank God is right. The freeze also signals the end of the thunderstorm season. This is a fact that Mrs. Fisher and I both brought to Bill Donnelly's attention. We have suggested a compromise to him, that he remove his string of lightning rods for now and put them back up next summer. He's agreed to think about it. The man from the yellow Tudor asked, what about the termites? The freeze might have helped us there too. I just don't know. 3 houses have tents now, which makes a total of 25 so far in the development. And the robberies? Mr. Costello nodded solemnly. There were 2 more robberies of tented houses since our last meeting. In both cases, robbers smashed a window, ran in, and ran out with cash and jewelry. The deputies say they have some leads, but that's all they're willing to tell us at this point. The same man said, I saw a guy sitting outside a tented house with a shotgun. Everyone reacted to that, and he continued, he's one of your neighbors, Jack. He's sitting outside in a lawn chair all night long with a shotgun across his lap. Mr. Costello said, thanks for telling me. I'll talk to him. If that doesn't do any good, I'll have the sheriff's department talk to him. We can't have that. Everyone agreed. He's going to wind up shooting some late-night jogger. The woman from the White York asked, what about the front, Jack? That's looking kind of run down. The front is looking bad because of the freeze. Those plants are supposed to be cold hardy, but nothing is going to come through a freeze like that completely undamaged. The same woman asked, did the freeze kill the rest of your fish? No, we can't blame the freeze for that. Those koi are cold hardy. That pond could freeze a foot thick and they'd be okay under the ice. We believe that some local person stole them and sold them. I said, I don't believe that. They all turned and stared at me as if they just noticed that I was sitting there. Then they all turned back. They were about to ignore me and go on when I added, that doesn't make any sense. They turned toward me again. Think about it. How could some local person, some koi thief from Tangerine, stop at the front of our development in that wide open space without anyone seeing him? How could he fish for, catch, and drive away with a string of big orange shiny fish with no one seeing him? Mr. Costello answered, I don't know, Paul. Maybe because he does it in the middle of the night when people are asleep. Anyway, it's the only theory we have, unless you have a better one. The ospreys, I said. They all stared at me blankly. The ospreys, the birds of prey. From those giant nests out on Route 89, they swoop down, snatch up the koi, and fly back to their nests. No one sees them, no one thinks about them, no one suspects them. Mr. Costello seemed annoyed. They all did. He said, You've seen this happen? I've seen them flying west with fish in their talons. How do you know they were our fish? They were big and orange and shiny. They all looked at each other. No one spoke. Finally, Mom said to me, Paul, if you knew about this, why didn't you ever tell anyone? No one ever asked me. She looked at me with the pained expression again. Is there anything else that we should ask you about? What do you mean? Do you know anything about the robberies? No. Are you sure? Yeah. Mom nodded. She believed me. The rest of them now seemed to be waiting for me to leave, so I got up. She winked at me and said, Thanks. Good night. As I started out, I heard one of the homeowners ask, Did anybody see that Eyewitness News team report on the sinkhole? The one where they found out the county never surveyed the construction site? Why can't we get that Eyewitness News team out here? They can shoot pictures of the muck fire. We show them the county and demand action. The guy looked around for support. Nobody moved. He added, and if that doesn't work, we can sue the county. Mr. Costello half smiled and pointed at Dad. We'd be suing our host here. Dad jumped to his feet and gestured for the crowd's attention. He looked absolutely frazzled. I want you all to know something. I'm determined to change things. That sort of nonsense, an unsurveyed construction site, will never happen again in this county. I can't change the past, but I'm putting some big changes in place for now and for the future. The homeowners listened and then turned to other matters. I continued on upstairs. I have to wonder about Dad, though. He was a wreck just now. He was coming unglued. What's going on in his head? Okay, notes about how Paul's changing. Oh my gosh. We only have, we're going to read it tomorrow. Don't look at the first sentence. Don't look at. Take notes. Work on your project. I'll see you tomorrow.